What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA Thursday, September 17th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, NBA playoffs. Let's take a look at this NBA showdown between the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics. So I'm going to go through these players, giving you the guys that I like the most, all the way down to the guys I like the least. But these are all plays that I like here tonight. So let's get into this. I like Marcus Smart from the Boston Celtics playing the Miami Heat, who have a good defense overall. They've been good versus opposing shooting guards. Marcus Smart has averaged 29.5 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 32 minutes per game with a 19% usage rate. Now take a look at his last 3 games. He scored 28, 38, and 52 fantasy points, playing 43, 43, and 49 minutes. It doesn't look like Gordon Hayward is going to be back tonight, so Marcus Smart should get plenty of minutes here tonight. He's projected at 34 fantasy points here tonight. Vegas thinks there's going to be 208.5 points scored in this game, so I like Marcus Smart here versus the Miami Heat. And the next player that I like, he actually may be my favorite player on the slate, even though I'm giving him to you second here. I said I was going through my favorite to my least favorite, but I do like Tyler Hero here for the Miami Heat playing the Boston Celtics, who have a good defense overall and they're good versus opposing shooting guards. Tyler Hero has averaged 22.5 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 27 minutes per game with a 23% usage rate. But he scored 37 and 36 fantasy points in his last 2 games, playing 40 and 36 minutes. So he's been on fire. He's projected at 30 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Tyler Hero here versus the Boston Celtics. Okay, now for a stud that I like Jason Tatum from the Boston Celtics playing the Miami Heat, who have a good defense overall. They're middle of the pack defending opposing power forwards. Jason Tatum has averaged 40.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 29% usage rate. But take a look at his last 3 games. He scored 66, 57, and 65 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 43, 44, and 51 minutes. He's projected at 47.4 fantasy points here tonight, but he's got that 50, 60 plus fantasy point upside. He probably has the most upside out of any player on the slate. That's why you got to consider him here tonight. So I like Jason Tatum here versus the Miami Heat. Real quick guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the position optimizer where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new player trends tool where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Another guy I like is Goran Dragic from the Miami Heat playing the Boston Celtics, who have a good defense overall. They've been good versus opposing point guards. Goran Dragic has averaged 22.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 28 minutes per game with a 26% usage rate. He scored 45, 22, and 35 fantasy points in his last 3 games, playing 38, 33, and 39 minutes. He's projected at 32 fantasy points here tonight, so I like Goran Dragic here versus the Boston Celtics. Now, I'm going to skip over Kemba Walker. He's just not consistent enough for me to want to play him here tonight. He's not an awful play, but you know, it seems like his upside is only around 32, 35 fantasy points. So he's got a low ceiling and he's got a low floor. He can go cold. He only scored 17 fantasy points 3 games ago. That can happen, and he played 51 minutes in that game. So that's a bad stat line. So I'm going to pass on Kemba Walker. He could go off here tonight. It's not an awful play, but from what I've seen out of him, I think there's better options on the board. So another play that I like is Jay Crowder from the Miami Heat playing the Boston Celtics, who have a good defense overall, and they're middle of the pack defending opposing small forwards. Jay Crowder has averaged 24.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 29 minutes per game with a 16% usage rate. But he scored 37, 31, and 30 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 39, 32, and 30 minutes. He's projected at 27.8 fantasy points here tonight. You could probably bump that projection up a little bit to 32 fantasy points based on his last 3 games, but that's a fair projection. So I like Jay Crowder here versus the Boston Celtics. Another player that I like, although he's been cold the last couple of games, he was in foul trouble a couple games ago, and then last game he didn't play very well, but I still like Daniel Tice from the Boston Celtics playing the Miami Heat, who have a good defense overall, and they're good versus opposing power forwards. But Daniel Tice has averaged 24.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 24 minutes per game with a 15% usage rate. So he scored 16, 19, and 32 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 35, 23, and 47 minutes. He's projected at 25 fantasy points here tonight. He does have that 30-plus fantasy point upside, and he's pretty decent salary here to give you some salary relief. So I like Daniel Tice here versus the Miami Heat. Okay, now for my last 2 plays, I would say pick one of these guys. I think they both have the same upside, same ceiling, same floor. They're right around the same price. So I like Bam Adebayo from the Miami Heat playing the Boston Celtics, who have a good defense overall. They've been good versus opposing power forwards. Bam Adebayo has averaged 40.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 21% usage rate. He scored 45, 18, and 54 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 42, 30, and 43 minutes. He's projected at 39 fantasy points here tonight, so I like Bam Adebayo here versus the Boston Celtics. Oh, and one note on this play here, Bam has scored 45, 43, 34, 22, and 40 fantasy points in his last 5 games versus the Celtics. So pretty nice stat line there for Bam versus the Celtics. So I think I might prefer Bam over my next pick, which is Jimmy Butler from the Miami Heat playing the Boston Celtics, who have a good defense overall. They've been good versus opposing shooting guards. Jimmy Butler has averaged 41.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 25% usage rate. He scored 38, 36, and 29 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 43, 37, and 38 minutes. He's projected at 38 fantasy points here tonight, so I like Jimmy Butler here versus the Boston Celtics. If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smickety smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.